Welcome. We'll begin momentarily. Please welcome back to the stage, Matt Abbott, VP Product Marketing.
What's going on, everyone? I'm back. I'm actually back here for the, some of us it's the second day for some of us, third day for others. An amazing first day. I just can't believe the energy that you all have is unbelievable. You seem like a bunch of people who were locked up and now you're out and free in the world. Definitely happening. Remember, I think tonight we do have another dinner tonight before we get started on the content here. I believe Bruce is paying again, free drinks, so get ready for that. That's going to be a good time. One clap over here. Definitely have someone over here who's definitely a drinker. Just calling it out. We will talk afterwards. So today I get to do and walk you all through, this is my favorite part because I love talking about the future. I love talking about innovation. And this is, we're doing some amazing things behind the scene that we honestly don't get to share too often with you, but we've got new ways that, of course, we're reaching out to you, and walking you through these different things here. And so this is definitely one of my favorite presentations of this. Although I can't compete with many of you, because yesterday, some of those breakout sessions from the customers, just amazing. So it's hard to be up here in front of you because of those sessions. So much feedback, just amazing here. So getting started here, this is more about really our future and our vision. And the very first thing we want to talk about is what does that vision actually look like? Where is ARCOS going as a company? And I think the amazing thing that you saw kind of from Bruce and Boogie when they were up here on Monday, we have this very strong company vision at the very top. And all of you know our core tenets. We live by those, we believe in those. And that's something you have all helped with. Underneath of that, we kind of have the second tier, which is really the product vision. What are we doing with our products, right? And that's really the tier we're going to talk about. And then underneath of that, we've got our strategy, which is more of the how do we get there, which we'll go into that detail a little bit more. And then underneath of that, we actually have our roadmap. And I will tell you that when they told me I had this session, I've already presented the roadmap like 100 times with ARCOS and the board and our employees. And that deck is about 263 pages long, and I'm not joking. So if anyone wants that, let's sit 30 hours straight together and I'll walk you all through that presentation. Yeah, a lot of laughs over there because they've seen the deck, the full thing. But starting off with our vision here, let's talk about ARCOS today and where we are, because it's important to level set that in order for you to see where we're actually going here. So ARCOS is an amazing company, like you all know, and not many companies can say that they've done something that ARCOS has done. So obviously ARCOS started here in this call-out kind of bubble here. And the reason I say that not many companies can say that they've done something here is that ARCOS is unique in the fact that they really built a market unto themselves with call-out, as all of you know, right? And not many software companies can actually say they've done that. Many are kind of fast followers, laggards trying to get in there. So very unique to ARCOS. From there, then we added crew management, of course, with Crew Manager. We built on, of course, the resource sharing part with Resource Assist. You know, we then acquired SAM6 and brought on Smart, and we brought on Mobile Workbench. We acquired then roster apps for the shift scheduling piece. And then from there, of course, we built Incident Manager here as well. So at ARCOS today, there's a core of about 7 different kind of products we have, or you could call modules, really markets that we focus on today. And around that, of course, is the full kind of ecosystem of other products that we have. And these are products that all of you use every day, right? So whether it's like an ERP on the bottom right that is very similar, links up to work management side, you know, up to, you know, HR with call-outs and all the different products around the kind of barrier. So ARCOS really is that core 7 is where we find ourselves, you know, in that middle, right? So this is where we are today. And again, this really aligns with what we've heard from all of you. And when you think about what we're doing now, we kind of break this out into 4 different journeys around the user journey, the customer journey here. Number 1 is that resource scheduling piece, which we talked about yesterday, where you know who's working, when they're working, vacation management, swapping, all those different types of activities can take place. You've got your resource activation, which of course is everything from call out, resource assist. You've got Incident Manager in here. 2, then we also have in here the resource identification piece, which is, you know, staffing up crews, crew management, heads to beds with hotels, you know, the resource tracking. Also contractor management's in here as well, which is kind of new for us, and I'll talk about that here in a second. And then the work management aspect then, which of course is the mobile workbench piece, right? So this is where we see that kind of customer journey aligning along the chain. And of course, like I showed yesterday, you all are familiar with the different problems that we solve. Now, everything from basically the shift scheduling side, everything in between, all the way down to the mobile work management. And our core is, of course, utilities, right? And not just utilities, but the people who service you as well as contractors. That's a place for us. Okay, now, with that said then, one of the things that we did here is we also went out to our user community and said, what do you guys call ARCOS? Like, if you have to call ARCOS anything, what do you call us? And hopefully it's not a bad word. But what we found out is that this is interesting, you know, interesting here. When we asked, like, thinking about what we do today, what would you call us? We had 81% of our customers call us call out, right? That's our bread and butter. That's fine. That's really, we are a call out company, no doubt about that. That's where we are today. But then what we did is we followed this question up with a second question. And the second question was, you know, showing you everything that ARCOS does. ARCOS, although our roots are in call out, we also do all these other things, shift scheduling, you know, crew management, all the things that we do. And we wanted to see if there was a change in what customers call us and how significant that change was. And there was a massive change, right? And that massive change is the focus heavily shifted over to work management and resource management. Those 2 terms were the most heavily used terms. And it was by sixfold, five times to 6 times difference, you know, from the prior survey to this survey. So that right there is an important aspect showing that ARCOS is a changing company, and you guys are all familiar with that change once you understand everything that we do, right? And that's an important thing to understand here. And so when you think about, you know, where ARCOS is today, we are a mobile work and resource management solution, right? Now, does that mean we're going to move away from call-out? Not at all. Call-out is a differentiator for us. Resource assist, the resource sharing, you know, that network is a differentiator for us. But at the end of the day, this is really what we are and what ARCOS has grown into. And that's being identified by all of you as well, right? So that's an important piece for where we're actually going, because now, you know, once you define a market, but you differentiate yourself, then you can actually figure out what are those vectors of additional problems that we can solve for our current customers, okay? So very important, and coming directly from all of you, you know, data from all of you again, which I can't say enough, but it's amazing to see that here. Now, with that said, what does that actually mean in terms of where we're going in the future, right? Where's ARCOS actually going in the future? So this is our 7 core right here, kind of our 7 core markets or products that we have. And what we're actually doing is we're going to expand in 2 different ways here. And where we're going to expand, and you'll see there were 2 more kind of little spots that lit up red here. Upper right-hand side is the contractor management piece, okay? So why are we looking to expand there? Well, what we've realized is that with utilities, there's a network effect that's happening right now. You guys use contractors, some of you use them daily. I mean, Bruce throws out the number of like 20 to, I think it's 60% of contractor use, which is high contractor use. Inside of our product alone, you saw the numbers, we have over 200 contractors actually in Resource Assist. We've got 18,000 FTE contractors in Resource Assist, which is just unbelievable. I think that it's around 20,000 now. Every time I look, that number keeps going up, which is amazing, right? But what we can do here from an ARCOS standpoint here, as we've had many conversations with customers, talked to a lot of them, with contractors, and talked to a lot of them, and we know what could actually add value for them. And all the things that add value for them are all the things that will help all of you out, right? So getting them in the actual network without you having to force them in is number 1, right? Adding some simple form of crew management form, some simple form of call out, some simple form of time tracking so they can quickly bill and close out items and get those back to you. Those are all important things which actually will help all of you, get the assets fixed faster, get the work done quicker. And that's one of our goals and one of the areas that we're actually growing into here. So that's an important aspect for us. The other one that lit up here is, I'm going to go back and kind of do that again. Notice the bottom right-hand side. And the bottom right-hand side says Form Builder, right? Now, when we say Form Builder, if you just do a quick Google search, Form Builder software, you'll find there's solutions out there, a ton of solutions. But they don't do what we do, and we're not trying to build what they are. We're differentiating ourselves in a massive way, right? They'll just build forms, and you can just digitize something, that's fine. We do it with a map and with a process behind it, and then tie it into all of our crew management and everything we do from call out and everything downstream. So the other reason that Form Builder is important for us, or a Form Builder is important, is that it allows you to get your time to value quicker for all these different processes you're doing. Again, it goes back to utility industry is very unique in that you all will do somewhat of the similar processes. Certain inspections, you do them fairly the same, but there's just that nuance, that 80-20 rule. 20% will be just a little bit different. And so we can't, we don't want you guys to have to go through massive implementations, year-long implementations. We want you to be able to be working it out, less than a month, right? Build a form, get it out to the field, deployed, start using it. But it's not just a form, right? It's a workflow process. It has a map behind it. We know where the data is, where the asset is. Kind of like Darren was saying yesterday, right? Big differentiator for what we do is that mapping component of that. And then, of course, the process. If this happens, then we're going to kick off the next activity. If an inspection happens, they find something, it kicks off a repair, right? It's that value chain downstream here. And that Form Builder is going to help us get there, for all of you. So very, very important areas of growth for ARCOS and where we're going to get to here. Now, the other thing, too, is remember that there's still a bunch of systems around that core on the outside. We're also not ignoring those at all. We've got to make sure that we play well with those, and that's why API is also a very important thing for us, because those systems aren't going away anytime soon. And we know that, and in our ecosystem, we've got to make sure we can talk to all of them in a very easy and a capable way here. So this is where we are going, okay? Now, with that said, when you think about our actual product vision, remember that ARCOS has acquired other products. We've got Rostraps out there that we've acquired. We've got Mobile Workbench. Rostraps, has amazing functionality around advanced scheduling. Being able to post schedules, vacation management, bidding and swapping, all these different kind of different processes that we really can manage in Rostraps. So really getting that, embedding that into the rest of the platform, using that as kind of the baseline for all the scheduling that we do is absolutely amazing and absolutely powerful. So when you think about what our actual product vision is, our product vision is really to have this single integrated platform across all of the products that we have, across the markets that we have, that is really fully automated. And we also want to put that in the palm of your hands as well. We're not abandoning, the full web, the back office. We're always going to support that because many of you do, work on laptops and in the office. But ARCOS is also, we are transitioning into more of a mobile company. We have a lot of users who use us on the phone now. which is just, and that growth is just continuing, and that's very, very fast. So we've got to make sure that all the features, functionality we have work really well on a mobile phone, and we can't just take a big screen and just shrink it down, right? We've got to optimize the way that that actually looks. So our vision is really to take the entire platform, everything that makes ARCOS unique, right? Scheduling, with the call out, with the resource, resource tracking, with, with a resource assist and the sharing and the network and everything, all the way down to mobile workbench and the work management side, and put that in one location. And I'll actually show you some examples of that here a little bit later. So this is an exciting vision, but it also is what makes ARCOS unique. No other company in the world has this or is doing this right now. It is literally just ARCOS right now. And it's just unbelievable when you think about that here. So now we've talked about vision. So now let's talk about the strategy, right? The vision, of course, is the big things. What are we actually doing? What's that North Star that we're going after? Strategy is how are we actually going to get there, right? Because these things do take time. Software takes time to develop. And of course, you have to look at your resources and how big these different tasks are that we've got to do here. So from a strategy standpoint, we've got kind of 6 core focuses that we're looking at. And those are kind of weighed differently. We've got ways to kind of weigh them and prioritize everything that we're doing. So number 1 really is that integration. It's that consistent user experience across all of our products. Whether you log into what we call roster apps today, which will probably turn into more of an advanced scheduling module, but that should have the same look and feel as like Callout, and should have the same look and feel as Crew Manager across the board. That's an important aspect because we don't want anyone to be confused. We want to make sure it's easy to use, and there's a consistent user experience across the board and value chain. So that's very important. Number 2 is really that strong mobile solution, right? And we want to do it differently, a little bit differently this time. We don't want to do what we call feature parity, where we say, hey, what's on full web? Let's just put all the same features on full web, down here on the phone, right? That's not real optimized. So what we're going to do is do it differently, where we're going to optimize really based on who the personas are. Is this a field tech? Let's just show them what they need to see. Is this a supervisor? Let's show them what they need to see. And that's an important aspect, really, to kind of optimize it for their work and what they do every day. That's an important thing, again, that we're learning from all of you as well as we get that feedback. The other thing that, and again, this aligns with what you all have asked for, is configuration, additional configuration. ARCOS is a very big system. You all have very complex rules. It's not easy. It's not easy with all the rules that we have to look at across the board. Jason showed a great example of even just in the industry, the rosters, the columns that you have in the rosters, the difference, like that from 63 down to 10, a lot of differences between them, massive differences between them. We've got to make sure that we actually make our product more configurable, make it easier, enhance the configuration so that you can make changes on the fly without having to come to ARCOS to make those changes. So that's an important aspect for us. Those top 3 things really kind of drive the next bullet points, right? So number 4 is really automation. You use our product because of the automation. You don't have to pick up a phone call now or pick up a phone to manually dial, right? We automated that process. There's a lot of additional things that we can actually automate, which will add value to you, to everyone in this room. So that's important. And then, of course, the 5th one is functionality for resource sharing, right? That's the contractor piece that we talked about. Getting them in, making it easier for all of you to actually onboard contractors, important aspect. And then the last one here is integrations. And again, we can't forget that ecosystem around ARCOS because we're not singularly doing this alone. You all use many, many products out there, and we can't forget that. And there's even some potential partnership opportunities with some of the companies that we're discussing with other companies right now, which are fantastic. And we're always open for those things. So any ideas, any new types of things like that, let us know. Okay. Now, with this said here, again, all of the data you guys are giving are really driving what this strategy is here. And what we've heard are things that are like what we would call bigger things that are really important for all of you here. And so global map, global calendar, resource sharing, those are like some of the top 3 things that we've heard all of you talk about here. Okay, so these are the important things, but then you'll notice that there's 1,000 other ones as well that we can kind of get into, but these are kind of the core of the big ones. Now, how is this shaping up the actual roadmap, right? So we've got this product vision, we've got our strategy and how we're going to do it. Now you kind of come down to the roadmap tier, and what's the actual roadmap look like for the future? So let's go through that now here. And what we've done on these roadmaps are, we're kind of taking a different look, breaking it up a different way, right? We're taking those 4 solution areas that multiple products can kind of fit underneath, and then we're showing you what the roadmap for those 4 solution areas look like. And the first one is the resource scheduling component. Again, this is really that shift management piece of it, the advanced scheduling, if you will. And when you think about that, I mean, what we've already given a bunch of these capabilities I've talked about, post shifts, do bidding and swapping, vacation management, all this stuff. But here, what we're really trying to do is automate that entire process chain. We should know when shifts are. We can automatically put shifts up. You can be hands-off on the vacation management piece, let people swap and shift and trade and all that. You can be very hands-off unless you want to be embedded. And so we're working on a lot of automation here, being able to automatically approve and deny, vacation awards, different awards. The automate shift changes. If there's a change in a shift, the system automatically knows and makes changes to that. Being able to really automate the trade swaps. And of course, you'll see the mobile capabilities are always highly important. And we want to get to a point where there's like full intelligence, there's like AI behind this that can really drive what those changes are and kind of predict them beforehand. And I'll actually show you some AI models that we've set up here. So this is massively important for what we're doing and from our strategic direction here. And then we come to resource activation, right? And when you think about that, this is call out and resource assist and all the things. And Bill and Jason and Jim did an amazing job at showing yesterday what that vision looks like for resource assist. So the top two right here, calendar and global map. Those are something that we've heard from you, I think, for a few years, but we have even more data really driving those decisions now from all of you that's highly important, right? And when you think about calendar again, like here, what is the calendar important for? Well, it's also important scheduling. You have to know when the schedules are, so it goes back even onto the other roadmap as well. And that's where it's hard to kind of mix them up across products, but they all kind of merge at the end of the day from a feature functionality standpoint, which is amazing. But then we've also got the enhanced resource sharing process, which Jason talked about yesterday, the merging of RA Lite and RA. And then we're trying to, the other thing is really enhancing the way in which communication happens. So really optimizing text messaging, optimizing like in-app notifications across the board are all highly important. Users are changing habits. They may not want to answer phones. That's fine. We've already got some things in there for them not to do that, but we want to make sure we enhance those processes as things change. And then, of course, with the standardizing resource sharing, the different roster templates we have, giving a way for you to all map those templates, getting in the resource ecosystem, and then getting to a point where we can start doing more of intelligent storm response. Maybe if we know something's coming in, we can start predicting things ahead of time. And we'll get into that a little bit more. And even predicting, predictive IoT, where if something fails, it can just hit our system and create a call out without a human having to do it, right? So this is kind of the future path of where we see ARCOS going as well here. Now on the resource identification side here, this is of course a big component of us. And when you think about this, I mean, one of the things that's important that we're investigating right now is really our network sharing with third parties. The potential for us to maybe tap into hotels or different equipment and different things like that to bring those all in for you, so that way you don't have to manually add those systems. So highly important. Also around the user interface as well. So there's some things we're looking at enhancing around Incident Manager, bringing that into like a mobile application, making sure that there's a strong UI around Incident Manager, on a mobile device are highly important here. We've also got Crew Manager templates. I mean, when you think about Crew Manager, a lot of you have seen it now. Clients use Crew Manager different. It's highly configurable. But if we can give you guys a starting point that you could potentially use as a starting point and adopt it very quickly, that may help you, but not just one, but multiple. Maybe there's a series of 20 Crew Manager templates that you want or 20 perspectives that you want. You can just enable and go and you start running with those, right? So that's a highly important thing for us. And then, of course, we do want to get to a user-driven interface for Crew Manager as well. The reality about Crew Manager is it's, people that use it's used heavily, and we found out that there's a series of users who don't use everything in Crew Manager. They're more kind of consumers of the data, but not the administrators of that. And we've got to get them a more optimized view of what Crew Manager looks like, which is important. And then, of course, the auto-scheduling of logistics, and then next-generation mapping and GPS. More, things around geocaching locations and doing different things like that we can actually address here. And then the last piece is the work management strategic roadmap here. And of course, this one is also very exciting because we've had a ton of feedback from our user community on this. So number one is the form designer, which we've talked about here. And I see AEP shaking their head, right? They're like dying. They want this like yesterday. They want to use this thing. But that form designer, I'll actually show you a component of that. But again, it's reducing time to value, letting you make changes on the fly. But that's not all we want to do with this, right? We also want to get to a point where we also have an automation designer. And I don't know a good word for that except for the fact that a bunch of if-then statements. If this happens, if this field equals this, then we kick off another process. But having a user interface for you to all control that entire workflow, right? That's an important aspect. Not only would we have that, but also an API configuration, a screen where you could come in and actually configure an API. You could say, yep, I want to use this, you turn it on. You get a URL dynamically, you get the auth code, you get documentation. And by the way, if you make a change to a field on the form designer, or add a field on the form designer, that could go all the way down now and dynamically update the API and dynamically update the documentation. Right? No one's doing this in the market right now. This is something that ARCOS is looking at, but we haven't seen anywhere. So amazing functionality on that side. Now, of course, with that, with the form designer and everything, we can also add additional use case support. So, you could use us for a mapping activity, an asset, data capture on an asset, inspection, repair, damage assessment, things like that. Or you could use this on non-assets as well, right? We can also strengthen gas, and the people in here that work in gas companies could use the form designer. Big part for us. And then, of course, tighter integration with ARCOS' products. I mean, it's funny because as I sit in the sessions with all of you, that's a common theme I keep hearing. I have a ton of notes in my phone from it. There was even an idea to integrate directly with RA yesterday. Amazing idea. We have some additional integrations that we're looking into for Mobile Workbench. But then getting to a point where we actually refresh the mobile, enhance the mobile a little bit. But then we do want to add things like intelligence, and that's actually we're right there on that side. When you think about intelligence on the mobile work management side, it's a little bit different than the other pieces. It could be really moved more toward vision detection, right? Pictures, taking a picture of an asset, and then the AI model looks at it and determines what's wrong with the asset. Those are the types of things that we're looking at. LiDAR on phones now. iPhones and iPads have LiDAR, scanning an image, getting a 3D image. Those are all things that we could actually do here, with Mobile Workbench. So we're going to play a game now, and I can't remember the name of the game, but it's like the survey says game, right? And so you're all going to have to participate, but I promise you, your right arm or it's just your left arm. You don't have to stand up here. So I know some of you still may be hurting a little bit from last night, but there's good energy as well, so it doesn't look too bad. Number one here, how many people think that like a global map would be important in ARCOS' platform? Raise your hands if you think a global map would be important. Yeah, so there's quite a few of you in here raising your hands. You also don't have to be shy. I see a lot of like half hands. You can raise that thing up. It's no big deal, right? I'm going to call you out if you do it next time a little low. So think about a global map here. What's that? What is a global map? Did we pay you for this? It's perfect, man. We're going to show you. We're going to show you what a global map is. Yeah, that's a great lead in here. You got me flustered. I hit the wrong button too. I closed out for a second. So here's the thing. So again, getting feedback from users is important for us. And I think what I saw, quickly counting all the hands that were up and half hands that were up, is probably about right. 79% of our customers said that a global map is important. So something across the platform that shows everything. Well, what does that look like? And we're also going to show this a little bit later here. But when you think about a global map in our platform, it really is a dynamic map where you can control what you see, and it's also different roles can see different things. You choose the layers, but the more important thing is it would actually combine things like employees, resources, hotels, potentially even equipment. But the whole value of this is more around situational awareness and cost savings. So like if there's a red eye right there, you could have a crew that's tired potentially, right? And it actually gives you that situational awareness. But when you think about ARCOS, it really is all of those things that you can use ARCOS for all the way across the entire customer journey, in one spot on a map, whether it's the assets or whatever it is, crews, people, equipment, and so on. So this is an important direction, for us, an important place that we want to start, moving to as well. Now, again, another game, right? Survey says game here. How many of you think that a global calendar would be important here? Raise your hands if a global calendar is important here. We've got several, yeah. A lot of hands high here, good. Yeah, when you think about global calendar here, this is something that actually came in higher than the global map. So we had about 83% of our current users say that a global calendar was important to them. And when you think about a global calendar here, there's multiple kind of layers of the calendar. There's layers, for the field techs themselves. There's layers for the managers to kind of see across the board, right? But I mean, the big thing is that employees could see things like shift, vacation, their swaps. But then the other bigger component of this is giving you all a place where managers can literally see the schedule and be able to better plan the work, to the staffing needs, which is an important aspect of what we're getting to as well. And this functionality is functionality that we have in a big part today right now in roster apps. It's in our advanced scheduling component, right? But what we need to do is just do that integration between the two, and then this capability will be available. So an important aspect of this. Okay, so another survey says, and I think I already know the answer because I think Jason or Bill asked it yesterday, so thank you guys for stealing my thunder. But the resource sharing, how many of you think that resource sharing is important, or it'd be nice to have resource sharing? So a lot of hands go up on that, and we're seeing that same thing. For resource sharing here, we found that 86% of our customers want that. That's actually a very high need. That solves a massive problem, right? A massive problem that's across the industry. And I think it also solves a problem also on the contractor side, and we know that. So important piece of what we're going to do here, and like Jason and Bill talked about yesterday, they did a really good job of laying out our vision for resource sharing specifically. But kind of few things I'll say here. Number one, it's core. It's core for what we're doing. The reason it's core for what we're doing is you all are doing it. It's a problem that you all have. It's a problem that we solve today, right? We're learning as we go, and we're learning how to optimize and make it easier for all of you. So it is literally a staple for what we're getting to, right? So that's an important aspect. And then, Jason and Bill, they walked through everything really well in Jim with the events and resource planner, call out, crew manager, and then of course with the smart aspect of it and the reports. But that resource assist component, without that, we don't have our full pyramid, right? Our pyramid breaks down and we've got a huge hole. So a big area for growth for us and a big area for solving a problem for all of you, which is really, really important here. Now, one other thing I'll point out before we get to the innovation part, which is one of my favorite parts here, is your feedback. And you're going to hear me say this all the time. You guys are going to get tired of me saying this, but I don't care because it's so important, right? Your feedback is important. And visions in the strategy do change, and they will change. And that's good. You want a vendor who can adapt to your ever-changing needs, and that's what we are here, right? So with this vision and strategy, it's set right now, but as we get more feedback in from all of you, we will adjust the strategy. We will change the strategy. We'll change the order and what we're doing things. If there's something that's more important, that thing can easily rise up to the top. And that's not just about the feedback forum. That's about participating in everything that we do with you, whether it's advisory groups, interviews, if we just reach out to you and say, hey, do you just have 10 minutes to talk? We just want to show you something, which we're doing a lot now, to actually, to the NPS surveys, to actual surveys as well. So any types of things like that we do that touch you, we get that feedback, it does go back to really aligning our vision or changing our vision, which is highly important. Okay. So now let's talk about the really, really fun things, right? So that's really the product vision of where we're going, right? We've got our strategy, we've got the roadmaps laid out of where we're actually going and how long it's going to get there. And now let's talk about some of the kind of futuristic, cool things that we're really looking at here from an ARCOS standpoint, which is really around the innovation here. So when you think about innovation, there's really multiple things, right? And we kind of break it up into three key things here. The three key things are really, number one, being able to being able to manage your workforce remotely. Mobile phones, tablets, things like that are really kind of a massive innovation thing. And why do I say that? Well, the reason I say that is no company has ever put ARCOS together on a mobile device before. All the products that we have, again, who's done it in the market? No one has. We are the only ones doing this. So that's important here. The resource marketplace, which we've touched on, we'll touch a little bit more about that. And then the third bullet point is really around artificial intelligence and us getting and using the data that you all put in there to kind of build models that actually make sense, right? Not just using it as a buzzword, but actually using it in a way that we can effectively release things and deploy things for you all. Okay. Now, number one here, mobile. So let's talk about mobile. So with mobile, and AEP, you're probably going to like this. I think you guys have actually already seen this here. But first thing with mobile is actually not mobile. It's actually something behind the scenes we're working on. It's a form designer. So you'll see here on the left-hand side, that is the form designer. You've basically got fields on the bottom left that you can drag and drop over to kind of the panel on the right-hand side. And there's many different field types that we're actually going to support here. Many different field types. And once you drag them over, you can name those fields. You can choose, of course, what types of fields they are. You can choose many different parameters, including required and all these different things, right? You have full control over this. But the second you hit deploy, now what happens? Now it goes down to the mobile phone. Now it gets deployed to the actually native device or a mobile application here for the field to use, right? So massive impact, very quick to use, very easy to use. Anyone can use it. So very important here from a growth standpoint here. Now, with that said here, that's kind of like this back end kind of driving the front end in terms of mobile, right? And our goal is being more than just like a response tool. We want to really be and make it easier for you wherever you are to use ARCOS' products, right? Someone said yesterday, like, in one of the sessions, if you're sitting in church, right? Yeah, if you're sitting in church or at a ball game, right? Wherever you are, you should be able to use ARCOS here. And so one of our focuses here, like I said, when we were talking about kind of user persona-based mobile and native applications, that is a core focus of ours. And this is an example of that from a field standpoint. And so we want to make sure your employees can see the things that they need to see. The field techs can see them, that they don't have feature parity with our full web, but it makes it easier for them. And this is a reimagination of that. And when you see these three screens, let me kind of explain to you here. The screen on the left-hand side, when you see the top, it's really about when, who, and where. Right? So the very top is when do I need to be somewhere? Then underneath of that is like basically who is it? And then the third thing is where is it on the left-hand side? Right? In the middle now, what you have is you have your schedule. You know when you're supposed to work, when you're not supposed to work, you can actually see that schedule here. And then on the right-hand side, this is actually where the work management piece comes into play. So the right-hand side are your actual individual work items, whether it's a damage assessment, some type of inspection that you have to do. That's the what you're actually doing. What is that tech supposed to do? They can click on it, they can see it on a map, they know they need to be there, they can record the data, right? But it's all in one spot, all like literally in one spot on their phones. And like we're hearing yesterday with Darren's speech, right? That is becoming more important. Mobile, being easy to use, they like their phones better than what's in their truck. They don't want to go back to their truck. They can do it all in one spot here. Okay. So this is mobile, kind of what we're envisioning for mobile for the field. The next thing here is really the supervisor. What are we really doing for the supervisor view? So there's a very big important difference between this. It's not like what is the supervisor doing? It's more about who are you responsible for, right? And this is really, when you think about this, it's a different view. It's really the bottom there are really crew icons instead of the individuals. Right? And we can actually display individuals down there where you can see individuals, but this way a supervisor can log into our native app, see where their crews are, and get information about their crews and see statuses. Are they working? Are they not working? Are they available? Are they going on rest? All of that information can be right here, on their phone here. So an important aspect of where we're trying to get to, okay? And it's good because I see some heads shaking yes, so I always like that when I see something like that here. The next one is more about the minute of need update. So when you think about this is an example. When we talk about like crew manager is extremely powerful, an extremely powerful tool, right? But there are some users who don't need all of the functionality. So this is kind of a reimagination of that in terms of like crew manager attribute update request. That's really what this is right here. And the important thing here is that it's more about information. Like if changes can be done by the field here or by the supervisor at this particular level, that information now comes back to the office faster. You have more situational awareness. It's changing. It's much quicker to actually use than having to wait and having someone pick up the phone and call you about what's going on here. Okay, so an important aspect again for us as well in terms of crew manager. And this next one is the map again. So to kind of reiterate what's on the map, like the point about the map here, this is kind of that reimagination of it. And you can see like that red eye right there in the middle is where you see like a crew near exhaustion. So again, you get that awareness of where crews are, what's the status of them. You could even see things like staging site capacity. You can see hotel capacity. All of those things can actually be put on the map as well. And the other thing to imagine here is that this is not just static. You can interact with it. So drag and drop type activities. So you can drag and drop for like an assignment for a hotel. You could do it for an actual staging site. You could do it for a work item, right? All these different things you can drag and drop on the map to start assigning users to. And this is what we mean by really that global map across the platform here. Okay, so big part of what we want to do here. Okay, and I think the big thing here is when you think about this, we're really trying to make it easier for employees to start transitioning to that work component as well. And that's why mobile workbench is so important for us to get to that aspect here. So from a marketplace standpoint, again, with Jason, Bill, and Jim, what they did was a great example of what we're doing with the marketplace. What I will say is that it's foundational for us. When you think about why is it foundational for us, you guys are really driving in these the contractors. The contractors are the flip side. So we've got to have this one spot where utilities can request resources from other utilities. We can request it from contractors all the way across the value chain, make it super easy. But then what does that actually do? What that also does is that provides us with very important data that we can actually run through AI models. And we can start figuring out, how many resources do you need? Big storms coming in, how big is the storm? We could take a look at that. How many people are likely to accept call-outs? If we know that, now we could say, well, you might be down 1,000 people, so let's just automate the process of requesting 1,000 resources from the marketplace. So it's a foundational thing for us to actually do, and very important for us here. All right, now the really, really fun stuff here. And sometimes when we send out surveys and get feedback from you, we kind of do, I don't want to call them trick questions, but we don't really tell you the context of the question. And now I want to share what those are. Now you're all aware, so you'll probably call me out on it now. Probably shouldn't have said anything. But this next question is a good example of that, right? And the good example of that is we sent out a survey where we asked, how many of you think it would be beneficial to be able to predict, if ARCOS could predict call-out responses before they occurred? And we had a pretty good portion of people that said that would be beneficial here, around 70% number, which is a pretty high number when you don't really know exactly what it is or how it works. And so one of the things I'll show you a little bit before, I want to talk kind of about 3 different models that we have here, 3 different kind of AI models that we're looking into. And I want to show you one of those that we're actually working on actively from an R&D standpoint behind the scenes. So number 1 is really predicting the call-out response. So when you think about this, ARCOS has all this data from all of your employees, right? All your users in the actual ARCOS platform. We can use that data then to create an AI model. And what that AI model does is when you actually go and click on create call-out, you choose who you want, what resources you need, the number of resources. Right there, we could predict who's likely to actually accept the call-out. And the reason for that is AI is very good at finding, in seeing patterns in behavior, right? And believe it or not, we all have patterns in behavior for some reason or another. So, if it's a holiday, maybe one field tech's more likely to pick up call-outs and answer them and actually accept them during a holiday when another is not, right? And that's an example of kind of that pattern. And if you do that, the impact of that is that you may not have to do more than one call-out. You could just issue a sub-call-out right underneath if you knew what percent is likely to accept that call-out. So you do your initial call-out, I see that only 20% is likely to accept it, well, let's do a sub-call-out right now instead of waiting. And that time makes it faster for all of you, right? And I'm actually going to show that here in a second. But before that, I want to kind of talk about 2 more models that we're looking at here. So remember, on the mobile workbench side, we also do damage assessment. We've got several clients using us for damage assessment. The more data that we get around damages, and the more data we see around damage assessment, we can start looking back at the criteria of why did it occur, what happened, where was the asset, all of this different data. That data is really ripe for really setting up AI models to say, where are our risky areas? And I know many of you are already doing this. I know on the gas side, right, they have their programs that kind of identify risky segments of pipe. But we can do this across the board, right, across the board here. But it's just getting that data in here. And the reality is, if you know that, maybe you do things a little bit different. If you know big storms coming in, what are the areas that are most likely to have damage to them, right? That could actually change where your staging sites go. That could change the resources you need. Maybe an area is more remote, not a lot of assets. Maybe there's an area in the city that has a ton of assets and you need more people, right? Those are the type of answers we want to give you ahead of time, before anything actually happens, before a major event happens. So this is also something that we're working on behind the scenes here. And the third one, I like this one a lot because this one goes directly to what I was talking about before in terms of our marketplace with our contractors here. So this red line is like your employee level, right? And we know your employee level will go up and kind of plateau out because you can't just automatically just get more employees all of a sudden overnight, right? So how are you going to do that? Well, you can ramp up resources in a different way. You can ramp up resources by using the marketplace. Right? The reality is, though, if we can see the impact of something coming in before it comes in, like I was saying before, and we know that, hey, big storm, right? You've got maybe 1,000 resources, but only a portion of them are likely to accept, or there's a bunch of on fatigue or something like that. We would automatically know then how many additional resources are needed that we can then go to the marketplace automatically to request those resources directly, which is an amazing thing when you see it here. So these are kind of 3 AI models that we're focused on, and this is really in our vision. When we talk about our vision, this is kind of that next level of our vision here where we want to get to. Now, with that said, I want to actually show you some models here. So this right here is an example of what we call predicting a call-out response. So we took a bunch of data, in terms of people, how likely are they to predict call-outs. We used that data along with the time the call-out was to train an AI model. And so what happens here, you'll see it actually just run here. We run it through the model. On the left-hand side is just call-out data, right? That's just data from a call-out directly with who the user is and so on. We run it through the model, and what happens is it automatically shows or predicts that this user right here is likely to accept that call-out at whatever date and time that was, whatever date and time this call-out is for. So you can see that. Again, why is that? It's something in their past history that we can kind of predict in the future here. If we look at this is another individual, right? Same type of thing here. Again, left-hand side is just call-out data, in the call-out here. And what I'll do is it takes a second to kind of run through on this one here. But we load in that call-out data here in the model. We hit predict on it, and now it runs. And what did this predict for this particular user at that same date and time? Again, that same time for the call initiated. What it predicted was that this user is likely to answer the telephone but hang up with no response, right, or no input, right? So this is predicting these things out in the future before they occur. And we can do it very fast, right, through APIs to different models that we have. And so this is actually a model that we're working R&D on right now behind the scenes. So exciting things, a lot of exciting things that we're actually doing here as well. Okay. So what we've got, I'm thinking we've got a few minutes left here. Any questions about the vision, the strategy, the innovation that we're working on behind the scenes? Right here, yeah. We're running a mic over to you here. Hold on for 1 second.
Hi, I'm Chad Hedrick with Dominion Energy. I'm interested in you call it a damage prediction model, or is it an outage prediction model? Is that driven off weather and past historical events and the outages associated with that?
It could be. I mean, we're looking into that right now, but the question is how far do we want to go in that? And that's still an answer that we don't have yet. Because if we can get that data, bring all that data in, then we can start building models on that side to actually be able to predict that. So right now, we're kind of taking this step by step, and that's why you see that first model is about first predicting call-out response, because we have a lot of data on that side. Once we get that really good, then the next tier is what other data can we get that's really strong? Maybe it's damage assessment data. Then we can get weather data that's really strong. And once you start putting that story together, then we can eventually get there. So that's a potential for us. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Good question. We've got another one over here, Kyle. Or actually one back there. Sorry, we'll come to you in a second.
Good morning, Luke Druza with Tampa Electric. Just looking at your strategic objective, do you see a day that our contractors will be on the same platform that we are, that we would be able to call them out, that we would be able to, in a storm, change their perspective, in crew manager with the click of a bubble from normal operations to storm, and them actually being on the Workbench platform, just like we are. So, you would have a very hard time telling the difference between a contractor crew and a utility crew.
Yep. Luke, you're hired, man. You're hired. No, one of the things that, one of the things that you guys know is obviously contractors also, it's the flip side of what you do, right? And we've talked to a lot of them, and what we're trying to do is really kind of ease them into bringing them into the ecosystem that we have, right? And we've got to do that in ways first that step them in an easy way, like a simple crew management, simple call out. But once they're in there, once they're in the system, now we can start looking at things like that to say, how do we actually embed them more into your processes? Right, so that's kind of that next level, and we are definitely investigating that, but before that level happens, there are direct things that we can do that add value to them today that will actually bring them in. So we've got to first get them in there, and then we can ask that question, or answer that question, I mean. Yep. Okay, and I think another question right here.
Art Romero, San Diego Gas Electric. By creating those predictive models, would those then become attributes that become assigned to actual company or employee profiles in the actual database?
I love that. We should take that as a no product team wherever you guys are. Yeah, that's a great example. The answer is yes, they could. And I don't know if we've actually thought about that yet at all, but that's a great idea. No doubt about it. Yeah, you're hired too. I'm hiring everyone. Bruce, Ross, up the budget. We're going to hire everyone here. Okay, we've got more questions here.
You mentioned a drag and drop process that could be used for hotels. So does that mean that where the crews are at in a specific area, that it would coordinate where the hotels are closest? You could move those people into like a hotel icon, and it would automatically.
You got it, yeah. Yeah, that's our vision. And when you think about that, even having that interface, even before that step, having that interface with hotels or with services, that we know what hotels are available, how many beds are available, how many rooms, and then you could drag and drop in. So you're exactly right. Yeah, that is our vision there. Yep.
Yeah, for us with Central Maine Power, because like I mentioned that yesterday, we struggle because we're so far away from everything.
Gotcha, yeah.
That would be ideal. We would actually be able to use the lodging piece.
Yeah, great. Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, and we'll note that as well. Definitely. Okay, a lot more hands going up here around.
Darren Reed, AEP. I just had to make a joke because everybody keeps saying my name. It's kind of funny. Point is, when you think about that predictive analysis, obviously those of us who have already jumped on the Workbench tool for damage assessment, we're going to begin to gather data from every one of our storms. And we have a partnership with a organization that does a little bit of this, but I guess what I'd like to hear is, what are we thinking about partnering that with weather, and what's your vision on what weather services or organizations are you guys thinking about so that we can pair that? Because eventually, if we all became mobile Workbench damage assessment users, we could better understand how the grid reacts in AEP territory versus Duke versus Southern Company versus Florida Power and Light, et cetera.
Yeah, and it's a great question. So the real answer is we need to work with you guys on like what that weather source is. Because when you think about the data, it's about really kind of setting up, using the data you have to set up that model first. So like, what data do we have? Oh, I just hit my mic there. But what data do we have? We've got like call-out data really strong. Damage assessment wise, a year from now, we'll have a really strong damage assessment data. We can use that data to create a model, but really for the weather side of it, it's kind of figuring out who has the best data on the weather, right, that we can use, and can we tap into it? What kind of data can we get from them ahead of time, or as a storm is happening? And that could be then, if we can get to really strong data on that side, then we could potentially set up additional models there. Yeah. But yeah, it's a great question. So right now it's kind of unknown for us because we're using what we have first to step into that. Really is the answer. So we can partner with you guys on that piece, though, and love to.
In terms of weather, we're going to be doing a session at 2 called Fire and Ice, and I don't want you to forget about the West Coast.
I forgot about that, yeah.
Because we don't see that many storms, but we see heat storms.
That's true, yeah.
And we see fires.
Yeah, very true.
And we have our own meteorology department, so we're not dependent on a weather service, and they do predictive modeling. We've got like the most deployed weather stations throughout our service territory. So, and we're already doing some AI work as well as some virtual reality work. Yeah. So I hope we can connect maybe at lunch.
We should, yeah. And you're explaining one of the difficulties with weather because the needs are a little bit different. Of course, it's like northeast versus southeast versus west, right? Just a little bit different. Who do we tap into to really get the entire United States painted, the entire globe like picture painted, so we can get that data? And the problem there is that once you start getting it from different services, now you've got different data coming through, and we've got to figure out how to handle that as well. Yeah, definitely. Okay, great. Another question here.
Hi, Emily Green with Ameren, Illinois. In regards to the global map, you were talking about the employees and the lodging and so forth. What about the land bases with the facilities?
Yes.
Would that overlay, would that be part of it as well?
That is a huge part of it, yeah. And I didn't mean to leave that out there, but that is a huge aspect of it as well. So your actual assets on the map as well, having map layers, being able to toggle them on and off, that's a huge important piece of it as well. Yeah, absolutely. So that will be a part of it for sure. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. And by the way, on that side, it's not just about displaying, but we're also working on different ways on how we can integrate with that map, whether it's like, Esri has a ArcGIS API, standard API, there's WFS, WMS, all these different protocols for mapping behind the scenes. Like, how can we effectively, tap into your map layers, show them easier, but still get dynamic information from them, right? That's an important piece of it as well. Yeah. And I think are there more questions here? Great questions. That's awesome. Okay, great. Yeah, I love sharing this. It's amazing, and great session, great interaction. I'm glad I don't see anyone out there with too bad of baggy eyes. It looks like everyone made it through the night last night, which is perfect here. So yeah. And by the way, I'm not done. You're actually going to see me and Bill again tomorrow. So you're either going to be tired of us or you're going to really like us. We'll figure out. It's still yet to be determined, but we'll figure that out here.
Can we put that on the global map?
That's going to be on the global map. Yes, definitely. We'll have a calendar for us as well. Definitely. Okay, great. Yeah, we're good. Okay, thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Matt. I get to send you off for your first break of the morning. Before you get up and go, I just want to acknowledge the storms that went through last night. So those of you that are being pulled out to deal with work at home, Texas, Oklahoma, the kind of central south, let us know if there's anything we can do to help you. And we recognize what you're going through as much as we can. So break, 10:15, breakouts in the other 2 Commodore rooms, and then after lunch, we'll be back in here at 1 o'clock, I'm pretty sure, with a presentation by First Energy remotely. You won't want to miss it. And then shortly thereafter, followed by an exciting fireside chat. So take your break. Let us know if we can help you in any way. And we'll see you back here at 1 o'clock, okay? Thanks, everybody. And you, Ameren, Illinois ladies, don't leave.